I just want to take people along with us because I think this is a really cool journey and I think people can learn from it. And I think when I would say, you remove gatekeeping and you're willing to expose things to your community and educate them, and I think that's really important. I think that builds trust as well. I think there's also space for everyone, so why would you kind of keep those things to yourself?
Explore the minds and marketing strategies behind today's winning brands and businesses. Tap into the power of the creator economy with Earned by CreatorIQ. Here's Conor Begley.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Earned. Today, I've got Taylor Frankel, the co-founder and chief brand officer at Nudestix on the show. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Taylor is very kindly stepping away from the Sephora summit that they've got going on to do this. So thanks for doing that, Taylor.
Yes, of course. Happy to. This is super exciting.
And for those that don't know your brand, I imagine most do, but I think one of the most phenomenal parts about the story was that you co-founded this when it was you at 17, your sister at 14, and your mom. I think just one of the coolest stories there is for founding a brand of this size.
Thank you. Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Nudestix story, so my mom, Jenny, she's been in the industry for over 20 years. She's a chemical engineer. I like to call her kind of like a beauty badass. She's so knowledgeable about all things cosmetics. She started her career at MAC Cosmetics, developing some of their iconic formulas from the lip gloss to the Pro Foundation. And then in the year 2000, developed a brand called Cover FX, which she had built for about 12 or so years. This is before anyone was talking about EMV. So this was, pre-Instagram, pre-Meta, pre-TikTok. And then in the year 2012, this was really the surge of social media, the surge of Instagram. And at that time, my mom actually had a 2-year non-compete, eat, pray, love moment. So she spent a year or two just connecting with my sister and I with absolutely no intention of starting a brand. But what she realized very quickly was that my sister and I viewed beauty very differently than how she traditionally saw beauty, which was really about artistry, more is more. And then you had skincare. My sister and I were like, okay, well, there's nothing out there for us. Like, we feel like there's beautiful makeup brands for that individual who wants this more is more glam, but for that someone who says, I just want to look and feel like the best version of myself and wear just enough to get me out the door in the morning, there was really nothing out there. So back in 2013, 2014, we collectively launched Nudestix. Nude meaning everything we do is about shades of neutral for all skin tones and enhancing your natural beauty. At the time, our hashtag was, and still is, go nude but better. So it's about looking like yourself, but like a little bit better than how you just woke up in the morning. And it really is about creating beauty products that look and feel like your skin and beauty for real life.
Yeah, I think it's a great approach, but I think you hit on a category that has come to prominence, right? I think the more is more was definitely the big thing back in 2016, 2017, even 2015. So the trend kind of came to you, which is nice. One of the things I really want to start off with is right now, the brand is on fire from a social perspective. So EMV is up 99% over the last 4 months, almost 50% over the last year. So more than doubling the category over the last year. And that isn't necessarily what I'd been doing the kind of few years prior to that. It was at a high level, but not growing at that same rate. And I know that for you personally, you spend a lot of time and effort focused on that area of the business. Why are you guys driving such unbelievable growth right now?
Yeah. So I know you've talked quite frequently to our Chief Digital Officer, Robert Barreto, who is really leading this initiative at the helm from an analytics standpoint and really making all of our marketing efforts, influencer efforts, social media efforts, very data-driven. I want to say almost a year ago, we noticed that our competitors were essentially out competing us. And we went into Tribe and we looked at, okay, what are they doing differently? What do we need to essentially level up to in order to kind of reach these EMV goals? And it really was about scale. And I remember, Conor, one of the first Tribe presentations that I went to of yours, it was actually at the WWD summit a few years back. And I remember you saying that, the largest percent of your UGC essentially should be organic. And I don't remember the exact kind of ratio, but I remember you saying something like 80% should be organic and like 20% should be paid. And you gave the analogy of flipping through a magazine and how if you flip through a magazine and 100% of the magazine is all paid advertorial, as a reader, you're going to look at that and say, okay, I don't really trust this anymore. It seems like they're just pushing a lot of things that aren't authentic, doesn't feel organic. And the same goes for as you are scrolling through your social media feed. And that was really eye-opening for us because obviously we had these paid ambassadors that we worked with consistently, but what is that organic earned strategy that we need to kind of focus on to essentially get that kind of gap that we were seeing? And so a big part of it was scaling our seedings. So going back to 2023, probably in about April, May, we pretty much like 3 to 4x the number of seedings that we were doing across specifically North America, the US being our biggest market, because we knew that as soon as someone were to open up a package, try Nudestix products, they would fall in love. Our goal right now is about a 40 to 50% post rate on Tribe. That would exceed, our EMV goals in an earned capacity. So that was where I would say we had this really big aha moment, this shift is like we needed to seed at scale. We needed to get product in all of our influencers' hands. And this is influencers across micro to mid-tier to macro. We were not, just seeding the macro because what we realized is most macros, as much as they'll organically speak, because they themselves also need to speak organically to products because otherwise people will just stop following them if they're always doing paid content. So a percentage of their content also needs to be organic, specifically kind of like that micro to mid-tier sweet spot, because essentially they're looking to just partner with brands. They're passionate about content creation. So really targeting that influencer community as well. So I would say that was our biggest shift, and then being a lot more diligent in tracking. So with Tribe, really looking at it on a weekly basis to see where is that gap, and if something's missing and if we're not hitting those goals, those KPIs, then we can immediately pivot, whether it's, continuing to see, checking in, engaging with influencers. I know a lot of what you talk about is about relationship building. So if we see that an influencer had received a package, because we can track all of these things, but hasn't posted about it yet, we can say to ourselves, okay, why is this the case? Have we DM'd them? Have we built a relationship with them? What are they posting in terms of our competitors? And how do we make sure that Nudestix is a part of that Get Ready With Me? So I think it's doing like a further analysis. It's about providing product, but it's like, what does that relationship building look like both digitally and then IRL too?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the playbook. Congrats. That's super cool. I love how tactical you are in terms of that approach. And also just it is exactly what we have seen work in the past for other brands. So to see you guys implement it, to see it work, makes my day, to say the least.
Thank you.
So obviously that's the brand, right? But I think you as a founder play a really big role in how the brand is perceived, right? You're a front-facing founder, which is something that not everybody does and has its kind of negatives and its positives. What are the challenges associated with you being kind of the face of the brand? And do you ever question kind of having such a public presence?
The biggest challenges about being founder facing is definitely you need to ensure that, your persona, your personality is most of the time aligned with your brand, right? And that definitely from a personal perspective can be challenging because you just want to make sure that your voice, how you speak, your presence is very aligned with kind of like your brand mission as well. And as a founder, that's obviously very organically the case, but I think it can be challenging to separate the two at times. So the biggest challenge is definitely separating the two. You as a person, Taylor Frankel as, who she is personally, and then obviously Nudestix, the brand. The funniest thing, I love to hear this, is whenever I meet someone, if I run into someone or they know me or they've seen my face somewhere, they'll come up to me and typically they say, Nudestix. They like point at me and they're just like Nudestix. And I find that hilarious because, which is ultimately the goal. And I am such a representation of the brand. And you can see my face across all of our branded kind of merchandising in store or social content or PDPs on e-com. So it makes complete sense. But I think that is always the goal, that you can kind of, really become one with your brand. You become recognizable in that way. But always there's going to be that personal challenge, even like, let's say one day post Nudestix, right? And obviously my name isn't the brand. Like I think about brands like Bobbi Brown. And I remember talking to Bobbi Brown, and when she sold to Estee Lauder, she said to me, the biggest challenge was that I lost my name. That's very challenging. I can see that being a lot more challenging as a founder versus obviously then my name is not necessarily associated with Nudestix in terms of like the brand name. But yeah, I think it could be a superpower for sure. And I'm sure, you speak to a lot of brands who will say the same because as much as there is out there on the market, it's incredibly saturated. What's going to be a huge differentiator for you? And that's your brand story and that's your founder story. So I really use it to my advantage for sure.
Yeah, I think if you go to Bobby Brown's LinkedIn, it says not associated with Bobby Brown, the brand, something to that effect, right? Yeah, I mean, I think the other challenge there, right, is like it starts to define who you are as a person. And you also have to think about this kind of time horizon. It's like, well, how long am I going to do this? Especially if you're not like, am I going to do this forever? Unclear, right? And so I know for me, kind of investing as a publisher on LinkedIn, it's been very fruitful. It's challenging to know kind of what the right balance is there, as well as like how much do I want to put out in the world? Like how much do I want people to know my personal life?
How do you balance that?
How do I balance that? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I'll talk about almost anything at work that's work related. I don't do like a lot of personal stuff, like stuff about family or kids or friends or that kind of stuff. Not saying I shouldn't, but I just don't or I haven't yet. So for me, it's nice. I mean, LinkedIn's a channel that's not necessarily meant to be that personal versus like Instagram where you've got 50,000 followers. Like people want to see your life, which is inherently very personal.
I think you're completely right. It's really about balancing how much you want to expose. And I remember talking to Marianne Hewitt about this as well. And I know you're close with her as well. But, really understanding as a founder or as an influencer, how much am I willing to expose to our community? And I think we've reached kind of this point in social media and as a generation that people think that they need to expose every single part of their life in order to reach kind of like this influence success, right? I don't think that's true. And I think as you set boundaries in all parts of your life, I think you also need to set boundaries with social media because ultimately it can take over. Like if I said to myself, I'm going to expose everything, at that point, I'm filming everything in my life. And then it's almost like you're in this meta world where it's what is real, what's not real, what are you putting on for social media? So I do really like separating the two and being really focused on social, on my brand and on business. And what can I do that can offer value to my community and why does my community follow me? So on my personal page, I know they follow me because they love to see behind the scenes of what I'm doing at work, whether it's I'm at the Sephora conference or a tribe conference or I'm traveling to different markets globally to launch the brand. People love to see that. And I have a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs that follow me and kind of love to see what are what it takes to build a business. I love sharing that. And I love sharing kind of the vulnerabilities behind that. But when it comes to sharing kind of like my family, etc., I'm definitely not as open in that sense.
So you mentioned the word community a few times there, and I've noticed that in your other interviews is a word that you use a lot. I'm curious, how do you think about kind of building community? And that's both at an individual level, right? You've got 50,000 people that follow you. If you were really to think about 50,000 people in a room, it's a lot of people. And then the brand has a much larger community even than that. What are some of the ways that you think about investing in that? And then how do you maintain trust? Because I feel like trust is obviously, a super important element as you scale it up.
Yeah, I mean, community is at the center of everything, right? Community is at the center of both your brand, your personal brand. Since we launched Nudestix in 2014, I was always the quote-unquote face of Nudestix. And I would be on social. And I remember at the time, TikTok wasn't as much of a thing. So the authentic platform for me to kind of create these long form videos and to talk to our customer was on Snapchat. And I remember doing daily tutorials and talking about my day and talking about where we are at Nudestix and, what our next was and showcasing packaging that we would receive at our front door, that we were picking and packing boxes. And that was really important to me because this was maybe less of a full marketing strategy at the time where I didn't really think of it as a marketing strategy. It was more so I just want to take people along with us because I think this is a really cool journey and I think people can learn from it. And I think when I would say you remove gatekeeping and you're willing to expose things to your community and educate them. And I think that's really important. I think that builds trust as well. I think there's also space for everyone. So why would you kind of keep those things to yourself? And, I think a lot of it is like time. I think with social media, obviously it's very easy. I mean, not going to say easy, but we've seen it done, in a 6 month to 1 year time frame where influencers have gone from 0 to, 1 million followers in a shorter period of time. I think the next question is this sustainable? I think myself and Nudestix have definitely created more of a sustainable approach and longevity when it comes to building a brand and building a community. And some people have followed us for 10 years and some people have followed us for 2 years or a year or 6 months. And, for me, it's like, how do we make sure that these community members are with us on this journey for a long period of time? And we have so many customers that follow us and say, I've been following you since, your day one. And I love what you've built and I've been using your product. So that for me is the most important. And I think it's staying true to your mission, continuing to be involved. I see founders all the time kind of ebb and flow in terms of like how involved they are in the business for a variety of reasons, right? You always have to kind of shift priorities as well as, maybe you sell and maybe, you're not as involved in the day to day. But I think having someone that's consistent, like if you think about even like how you build relationships with friends or a personal trainer as an example, like you've built this relationship with someone and if they kind of just drop off immediately, you're like, oh, what happened? Like I spent so many years building this connection and now they're no longer here. I feel kind of alienated. Who is this brand, right? So I think being consistent is super important. And yeah, like I don't have to necessarily create Instagram lives anymore and be in content, but I want to because I know that our consumers, they rely on that kind of point of connection with our brand.
Yeah, and you actually utilize them for product development too, right? Like that's a big part of your product development process is them.
For sure. It's huge. We actually just did a whole like social kind of poll on like our next launch for fall. It was a butter launch. And we're actually going to go to Sephora. We have a meeting with them tomorrow. And we're going to be like, okay, these are all of the comments that we received from our community. Like, let's look at these comments and let's pick a shade because that's who we create products for. And that's a great point. So yeah, community is definitely at the forefront in terms of like how we develop products.
Well, it becomes a very powerful feedback loop, right? Because then people go, oh, wow, I am helping to build the brand, right? I'm helping to shape what gets built, what gets made. And so it makes them even more connected, right? Oh, wow, like they might have actually used my comment in deciding what to do, which is just not something that most brands are doing.
No, I totally agree. And I think social media is like the best way. I mean, there's brands such as L'Oreal, and I'm sure they'll go through these like very intense focus groups and they'll meet with people on like, okay, like what is the next? But social media, like you have it in the palm of your hands and it's communities that are so passionate about your brand. Like it's just the perfect kind of focus group to understand, okay, like what's the next at Nudestix? And they also remind you who you are. I think as the industry, as you know, like there's a new brand that pops up every day and from celebrity brands, et cetera. And so, it is easy to kind of look at those competitors and think, okay, like maybe we need to do this or we need to do that. But I think your community always bring you back. They always bring you back to who you are and your mission. So I always think kind of asking them like, what do you want from us can also just help remind you, this is why we're doing this and this is who we are.
Yeah, so there's some more visible faces of your community as well, right? Like you've brought in over the last few years, Chelsea Handler, Hilary Duff as investors, Sophia Ritchie as your beauty director. And those are big decisions, right? I'd imagine both from a cost and equity perspective. I'd love to know, how did you end up meeting them in the first place? Like how did you end up going and building relationships with them? How did you decide that this is the right move for the company, right? Bringing in these kind of very visible faces. And then has there been any impacts to the business from having them involved?
So Chelsea and Hillary were both introduced to us by a mutual friend, colleague. We actually had partnered with a marketing agency named Blended Strategy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blended. Sherry Jawar and Allison Statter. They're also investors in Nudestix. We had actually met them at a conference. This was pre-COVID, and Sherry and Allison had heard the brand, loved the brand. They came up to my mom and I and said, we'd love to work with you. They had just started Blended Strategy at the time. And for those of you, who don't know Blended, they're a marketing agency. They now do PR. They're an incredible team. And so we started working with them. Allison had known Chelsea and Hillary. And Hillary, because they actually had kids that went to the same school or something like that. And Allison naturally being like obsessed with beauty and like loving Nudestix had just talked about Nudestix and had sent some product to Hillary, and she ended up loving the products and was like, I love this. I want to invest. Hillary being kind of like this businesswoman herself, being kind of diversifying also what she was doing, not only as an actress, but as a businesswoman, as an author, was really interested in this opportunity. And Chelsea as well. So we met with them. We brought them on as investors. They actually both invested monetarily into the business, which was obviously incredible that they saw the vision and really wanted to invest their own dollars into Nudestix. And Hillary at the time was like, listen, like, I'm an investor. Let's do something together. So that was when we came together. We went to her house, I remember, and she brought all these products with her. And she was like, this is kind of what my vision. And she had a vision of all of the products she wanted in the kit. And she had a vision of the packaging and everything. And we're like, okay, like Hillary wants this. Like, let's do it. We're all in. And it was actually our most successful kit ever. We actually shot our campaign at her house in Beverly Hills in LA. And it was iconic. We still get comments to this day of, I bought the Hillary palette. That was really cool. And then Sophia, she was introduced to us also by a mutual friend of mine. Her name is Maggie Sellers, and she's been around kind of the industry, specifically kind of like in the VC world, and knew Sophia's now husband. And she was like, Sophia's amazing. She wants to get into beauty. Like, you have to meet with her. Like, she's all about minimalist beauty, natural beauty. I'm like, okay, let's do it. We met with her manager in LA and instantly connected. Like, she just understood the brand. Even how she showed up that day, like, I was like, you are like the perfect Nudestix face. She's beautiful. And then from there, we brought her on as a new beauty director. And over that year, we just worked with her to develop Nude Body, which is our body care line. And then in addition to that, we just worked with her on other like content moments as well. And I would say that was a huge moment for us because we did not anticipate her wedding. Every single person in the world was obsessed. Like, regardless of where we were, whether it was the US, Canada, Mexico, the Middle East, Asia, Australia, everyone was like, oh my God, everyone stop. Sophia Richie just got married. We all want to know what she's wearing, what her makeup is, etc. The craziest part is, although she's an investor, we brought her on as an investor as well. We did send product to her makeup artist. And I do think partnering with makeup artists and stylists is so important because they are kind of like the trusted individuals when it comes to celebrity, because anything they use on their celeb clients, like, their celebrities are going to want to know, what is this? I love this. Can I buy this? Can I use this? Etc. So Patty Dubroff, her celebrity makeup artist, we had sent her product. She's also a Chanel artist. She ends up using Nudestix for Sophia's wedding. And then obviously every single media moment was covering Sophia and her wedding day and what she was wearing on her skin. So that was huge, not only from an EMV play, because obviously we had the EMV from Sophia, from Patty. We also had EMV from any media outlet that covered Sophia's wedding and like what her makeup was. And then we also had the EMV of influencers using Nudestix to recreate Sophia's wedding makeup after her wedding. And we had seen the kind of virality, not just for kind of that month. Obviously that month was huge, but even for like the next 6 months post-wedding. And then even going into this year, like going into wedding season, we're kind of seeing like Sophia's wedding look. How do we create this? So as much as it is challenging to plan these viral moments, I think as a brand, we were able to pivot immediately and say, okay, there's something here. We need to make sure that there's longevity in this. And, how do we make sure that we're kind of leveraging our community as well? So whether it was making sure that those products that were used on Sophia, we seed to our community to make sure like they're able to recreate Sophia's wedding look because everyone's talking about it. So that was huge for us last year.
That's super cool. Did you see any kind of impact from a revenue perspective at all?
We did. We saw impact in revenue, specifically a few of the shades that she had used. One was our Nudies in Conte, which was our all-over face blush. We had an eye pencil that she had used, a lip pencil that she had used as well. Obviously, these are shades that, had these viral moments, but it also allowed for more an explosive kind of awareness when it comes to the brand. Because as much as we're almost 10-year-old brand, there are still so many people that don't know of Nudestix. So Sophia really allowed us that kind of mass opportunity to obviously share how beautiful these products were, but also a lot of people that I would speak to after that was like, oh, like they kind of saw Nudestix as like this new fresh brand. When you're a part of relevant and moments like that, it just reinvigorates your brand. So that was also very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how far you guys have gotten. And like you said, I think still most people probably don't know what the brand is. So still so much more to go.
Yeah.
One of the other big decisions you guys went through over the last couple of years was kind of going multi-category, which is something that we see happening more and more, right? The lines between makeup and skincare in particular blending. I'm curious, how did you guys think about that? What were the challenges kind of associated in entering an entirely new category? And then how do you balance that with the risk it becoming a distraction to the core business, right? The core makeup business where you make all of your revenue today, or you did it prior to the launch?
Oh my God, that is a great question and something that we're continuing to kind of manage ourselves and understand ourselves. But we felt like it was important to diversify our portfolio. We know that our Nudestix community, they love the minimalist approach to makeup. They love the minimalist approach to beauty, the easy approach to beauty. And so we felt like if someone loves that in their makeup, they're going to love that in their skincare. They're going to love that in their body care. Skincare was really important for us to enter because as a brand who talks about this easy, minimalist beauty, a lot of our community members would say, well, that's great, but how do I achieve skin that allows me to wear this type of beauty? And so that's where Nude Skin came, where it was like, this is how you can achieve healthier skin. I'm not going to say there's no such thing as perfect skin, but healthier skin every single day in order to wear less is more beauty. We speak to the skinification of makeup a lot, which is, creating beauty products that have skincare benefits, that treat your skin. And so our community innately was skincare obsessed as well. So that was kind of like our segue into skincare. Right now, skincare is about 10% of our revenue globally. We're not in every single market yet, but we're looking to build across our global markets. It's definitely an uphill battle because if you are looking to diversify, if you're looking to get into another category, I think the thought initially is, oh, we have this community that loves our makeup color brand. Naturally, they're going to love and they're going to instantly adopt our other brands. But you really do have to build that brand as if it's just launching for the first time. And so what does that mean? It means it takes resources, it takes money, it takes time. And so that's kind of what we've realized. And the messaging with skin is obviously very different. So we're continuing to build that, but obviously it has the challenges of like building a new brand. And then Nude Body was expedited because we had it in the pipe to kind of be under that nude skin world. But working with Sophia, we knew she really wanted to create this body care line because for her, that was something that was very close to her heart. She was very passionate about body products, and she also had this vision on like what she wanted it to look like, to feel, the scents, etc. So we brought that to market with her as well. But body is a little bit smaller, and it's not across all of our retailers. It's more online. It's challenging because I think to your point, you kind of have to balance the efforts of, okay, how much product am I seeding for makeup? How much product am I seeding for skin and for body? The way we've now kind of worked is having individualized moments for each brand so that each brand has a time to shine. But also, what are some creative ways that we can integrate, for example, skin into makeup? Because we all know skin prep is key. So prepping your skin with Nude Skin, finishing off with Nudestix to essentially create your full look. And then partnering specifically with influencers that kind of speak to each world as well. Maybe your body influencers, your skin influencers, your makeup influencers. What we also love to do through Tribe, and I don't know if you hear other brands that do this as well, but we love to look at what are our competitors doing in each world and who are they working with. So in the skin world, who are our competitors working with and kind of understanding, okay, who makes sense to receive Nude Skin as well, and same thing for body. We all know our body brands that are doing incredibly well in the market, from Necessaire all the way to Sol de Janeiro, which I think is kind of fragrance body, but they have this roster of individuals that we can also, seed product to. So we've kind of utilized Tribe in that way as well.
It's definitely a challenge, right? Kind of how do you want to be defined? What do you want to be known as? How do you blend across categories? Again, I think there's a path to doing it. And I think that people are doing it more and more. And hats off to you. 10% of your revenue already is super impressive because makeup's been around for almost 10 years, right? Skin's been around for much shorter than that. So it's pretty cool to get there that fast. So another big decision that you had to make personally was you start this when you're 17, you go to college, you get a year and a half in, and then you decide, actually, this is such a unique opportunity. Like, I need to focus here, right? Like, I need to focus on this brand. I'm never going to get this chance again. Was that a tough decision or was that a relatively easy decision? And then two, do you feel like you kind of missed out on part of your youth by not being able to do the full kind of 4 years?
Yeah. It was very difficult. It was a very challenging decision. I mean, I grew up in a Jewish community in Toronto and everyone wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I was like, well, I'm going to just drop out of school and start this little makeup business that, at the time no one really knew about. I look back and I have absolutely zero regrets, no regrets there. But at the time, I actually had to speak to someone that I knew who was outside of my family, outside of my colleagues to advise me because I just didn't want anyone biasly kind of leading me in a direction that, or at least I had a perceived bias around it. That was really important to me to get feedback and advice from someone who was a little bit more objective and was able to guide me into like, okay, what is that decision? And it was actually someone who said to me those exact words of like, your education, your school, that business program will always be there, but this opportunity with Nudestix may not be. So I would say he's like, go full-fledged and really see what happens. So that was really cool. And I was also able to travel and I was able to build our brand in different markets. And that for me is what excited me. I was so passionate about it. I was not someone who could sit at a classroom. So I was just so happy to be building this brand and especially with my family. So no regrets.
I remember when we first started the company, I was embarrassed to like say I was starting a company because people are like, oh yeah, you're just unemployed. Especially when you're younger and you don't have like a resume. Like if I had said, hey, I'm taking a sabbatical now, people are like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it makes sense. But like when you're young and you don't have a job, people are like, oh, so you don't do anything. And it takes like years. So there's like years of embarrassment, years of like feeling like everybody thinks you're just wasting your time, right? Although you were in Sephora within a year or two, so you got traction pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was definitely helpful for sure. But I can definitely relate to like those initial feelings. And especially when you're younger, a lot of people don't understand, or I think if you don't grow up around it, like both my parents were both entrepreneurs. So I grew up around this entrepreneurial mindset. And I remember even when my mom took a sabbatical and took those 2 years, she was like, girls, like I'm taking a few years. This is kind of our situation now. And like, I just kind of thought nothing of it. I was like, oh yeah, it is what it is. And both my parents, had that mindset. So I think having that was also, for me, felt like it was normalized, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah, I did not have the same. Both my parents were at the same places for like 30 years. So it was like even more so. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, but that was the only one. Okay, let's do one fun end of show question. So I try to be really good. I'm not perfect, but I try to be good about like getting my inbox to zero most days. I hear that you're the same, right? You maintain zero inbox, right? How many emails? No. How many emails are there currently in your inbox? The last one I saw you quoted was like 800.
Oh my God. Let's see. I definitely have over 500. But also, I'm CC'd on a lot of emails. And if I'm like CC'd on something, I'm like, okay, I'm really not needed in here, but it's for visibility. So I get that. But if there's something that it's like a priority, obviously, if I need to respond to email, I will. But like they'll tease me, they'll text me. It's bad. But I get like also random emails all the time that I just don't even like look at. And sometimes they'll just like build up in my inbox. But any priority emails when it comes to work, I'm like on it. But yeah, it actually causes me a lot of anxiety and I need to like go through it and like filter it. My boyfriend actually is like one of those people who's like tabs are clean, desktop is clean, emails are like at zero. Like he looks at me, he's like, are you okay? Like, yeah.
I'm building myself up too much. I mean, I've got 134 in my inbox,
okay,
mostly from the last like 48 hours but these are like 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
I just get a lot of email, but I am not tab clean. I don't even want to count how many tabs. I've got like, I have to have at least 30 tabs open right now, maybe 40 across like 5 different windows. So, well, we're entrepreneurs. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Taylor, I really appreciate you taking out the time. Congrats on all the success. It's really cool to see. And again, I think what you've accomplished, it's a decade that took you to build this. But again, at such a young age is super impressive. So congrats again.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on. And thank you for building such an amazing platform that allows us to kind of reach all of our EMB goals. So we're excited to take it to the next. Big plans this year.
All right. Later, Taylor.
Thank you.
Be a friend, tell a friend, and subscribe. Earned by CreatorIQ. CreatorIQ is your all-in-one solution to grow, manage, scale, and measure your influencer marketing program. Ready to unlock the power of the creator economy? Get started with a demo today at CreatorIQ.com.